Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day to you, depending where you are in the world. It's been a hot minute, as they say in certain parts of the world. So I am continuing with the series of reading from The End of Time, which is a compilation of Ellen White writings. A man called Vance Farrell has compiled them and he's published it in a book called The End of Time. The book is not on general sale, retail, or any such thing, but you can get hold of it as a PDF, which I've managed to do. And if you can't get it, I'm reading it. I'm now on chapter 6, so you have previous 5 chapters to catch up on, which you can see in my channel. Chapter 6 is The Seal and the Mark. Now, this chapter is quite large, so I'm going to be doing this in parts. This is part 1, and it's likely to be perhaps 3 parts, maybe 4. Who knows? We'll see. And we'll see how tired I get as well. So, the seal and the mark. You will find, as I generally tend to say, that there's a lot of repetition here, because what Vance Farrell has done, he's taken various writings that Ellen White has done, and she's written in various publications, books, etc., about such subjects, all about the end of time. And the seal and the mark, she's mentioned it in various of her publications, and he's collated all of these into one chapter. So a lot of them will be repetitive, but it's just emphasizing what is to come and what she was talking about well over 100 years ago and how it's coming to pass now. So, chapter 6 of The End of Time, The Seal and the Mark, part 1. Seals have been used for thousands of years to provide a permanent shutting or closing of something. For example, a sheet of paper containing a letter would be folded over upon itself and a bit of wax dropped to hold it shut. And then a signet ring would be impressed upon the wax. The sheet was now considered securely sealed. It could not be opened without tearing apart the molded wax. When the seal of God is applied, those who receive it will be permanently identified as belonging to God. Their already developed characters will be sealed in. At the same time that the seal, also called a mark in the Bible, which is Ezekiel 9, is impressed, a different kind of closing signet will be applied, the mark of the beast. It will be placed on those who, by their decisions and their actions, have refused the seal of God. They have refused obedience to God's expressed will, as stated in the scriptures. The sealing will be a major event in the lives of the remnant who live at the end of time. In this chapter, we'll learn the nature of the seal, in what way it is different than the mark, and when both begin to be placed. Okay, excuse me. So what is the nature of the seal? The winds of strife, war, and manifold disasters are being held in check until the seal is placed. Everything in the world is in an unsettled state. The nations are angry, and great preparations for war are being made. Nation is plotting against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. The great day of God is hasting greatly. But although the nations are mustering their forces for war and bloodshed, the command to the angels is still in force that they hold the 4 winds until the servants of God are sealed in their foreheads. That's taken from Bible Commentary 7. The seal will be placed before the last great battle, which we'll discuss in a later chapter. As yet the four winds are held until the servants of God shall be sealed in their foreheads. Then the powers of earth will marshal their forces for the last great battle. How carefully we should improve the little remaining time of our probation. Bible Commentary 7. It is now we are to prepare for the sealing. The sealing time is very short and will soon be over. Now is the time, while the four angels are holding the four winds, to make our calling and election sure. Early writings. The seal is an invisible mark of loyalty and obedience to our Creator. What is the seal of the living God, which is placed in the foreheads of his people? It is a mark which angels, but not human eyes, can read. For the destroying angel must see this mark of redemption. The intelligent mind has seen the sign of the cross of Calvary in the Lord's adopted sons and daughters. The sin of the transgression of the law of God is taken away. They have on the wedding garment and are obedient and faithful to all of God's commands. Bible Commentary 7. The seal is a settling into the truth. Just as soon as the people of God are sealed in their foreheads, it is not any seal or mark that can be seen, but a settling into the truth, both intellectually and spiritually, so they cannot be moved. Just as soon as God's people are sealed and prepared for the shaking, it will come. Indeed, it has begun already. Bible Commentary 4. The seal will be our passport through the heavenly gates. Only those who receive the seal of the living God will have the passport through the gates of the holy city. Bible Commentary 7. The seal will only be placed on those who are like Christ. The seal of the living God will be placed upon those who only bear a likeness to Christ in character. Bible Commentary 7. They must reflect the image of Jesus. I also saw that many do not realize what they must be in order to live in the sight of the Lord without a high priest in the sanctuary through the time of trouble. Those who receive the seal of the living God and are protected in the time of trouble must reflect the image of Jesus fully. That's taken from early writings. The seal is only placed on those who are pure and without spot. The seal of God will never be placed upon the forehead of an impure man or woman. It will never be placed upon the forehead of the ambitious, world-loving man or woman. It will never be placed upon the forehead of men or women of false tongues or deceitful hearts. All who receive the seal must be without spot before God. Candidates for heaven. Testimonies 5. The seal is placed on those who love God and obey him. Love is expressed in obedience, and perfect love casts out all fear. Those who love God have the seal of God in their foreheads and work the works of God. Sons and daughters. It is placed on those who overcome the world, the flesh, and the devil. Those that overcome the world, the flesh, and the devil will be the favored ones who shall receive the seal of the living God. Testimonies to Ministers. Many are erroneously neglecting to become like Christ and are instead waiting for the latter rain to change them. Those who receive the seal of the living God and are protected in the time of trouble must reflect the image of Jesus fully. I saw that many were neglecting the preparation so needful and were looking to the time of refreshing and the latter rain to fit them to stand in the day of the Lord and to live in his sight. Oh, how many I saw in a time of trouble without a shelter. Early writings. The seal is the property sign. It shows who belongs to God as his special possession. Every soul in our world is the Lord's property by creation and by redemption. Each individual soul is on trial for his life. Has he given to God that which belongs to him? Has he surrendered to God all that is his as his purchased possession? All who cherish the Lord as their portion in his life will be under his control and will receive the sign, the mark of God, which shows them to be God's special possession. Christ's righteousness will go before them, and the glory of the Lord will be their reward. The Lord protects every human being who bears his sign. Bible Commentary 7. The seal is placed on those who conscientiously keep the Sabbath. The seal of the living God is placed upon those who conscientiously keep the Sabbath of the Lord. Bible Commentary 7. Those who would have the seal of God in their foreheads must keep the Sabbath of the fourth commandment. Bible Commentary 7. True observance of the Sabbath is the sign of loyalty to God. Bible Commentary 7. The fourth commandment alone of all the 10 contains the seal of the great lawgiver, the creator of the heavens and the earth. Testimony 6. The observance of the Lord's memorial, the Sabbath instituted in Eden, the seventh-day Sabbath, is the test of our loyalty to God. Last day events. A mark is placed upon every one of God's people, just as verily as a mark was placed over the doors of the Hebrew dwellings to preserve the people from the general ruin. God declares, I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am the Lord that sanctify them. Ezekiel 20:12, and that's from Bible Commentary 7. The seal will be placed on every true child of God. In a little while, everyone who is a child of God will have his seal placed upon him. Oh, that it may be placed upon our foreheads. Who can endure the thought of being passed by when the angel goes forth to seal the servants of God in their foreheads? That's taken from Maranatha. All of the 144,000 will be sealed and perfectly united. On their foreheads was written God, New Jerusalem, and a glorious star containing Jesus' new name. Early writings. We should strive to be among the 144,000. Let us strive with all the power that God has given us to be among those 144,000. Bible Commentary 7. Through the enabling grace of Christ, we are to strive to put away sin and obey God's will that we may become complete in him. Are we striving with all our God-given powers to reach the measure of the stature of men and women in Christ? Are we seeking for his fullness, ever reaching higher and higher, trying to attain the perfection of his character? When God's servants reach the point, they will be sealed in their foreheads. The recording angel will declare, it is done. They will be complete in him whose they are by creation and by redemption. Selected Messages 3. The mark of the beast is opposite of the seal of God because mark is based on keeping the false Sabbath. The mark of the beast is a subject we all need to understand. It is the interest of all to understand what the mark of the beast is, and there is a lot of controversy about this. And how they may escape the dread threatenings of God. Why are men not interested to know what constitutes the mark of the beast and his image? It is in direct contrast with the mark of God. Bible Commentary 7. It is important that we know how to avoid receiving the mark. The fearful judgments denounced against the worship of the beast and his image should lead all to a diligent study of the prophecies to learn what the mark of the beast is and how they are to avoid receiving it. Great controversy. God has sent an urgent warning to mankind to avoid receiving the mark, a warning which tells them how to avoid receiving it. When God sends to men warnings so important that they are represented as proclaimed by holy angels flying in the midst of heaven, he requires every person endowed with reasoning power to heed the message. The fearful judgments denounced against the worship of the beast and his image should lead all to a diligent study of the prophecies to learn what the mark of the beast is and how they are to avoid receiving it. Great controversy. The Sabbath truth will be the basic issue in the final conflict. The Sabbath question will be the issue in the great conflict in which all the world will act a part. Revelation 13, 4-8 and 10. This entire chapter is a revelation of what will surely take place. Revelation 13, Bible Commentary 7. The Sabbath is the seal of the law. It seals it as God's property and his identifying characteristics. When the Sabbath was changed by the papal power, the seal was taken from the law. Great controversy. The observance of the first day of the week is sacred, as the sacred is the mark. John was called to behold a people distinct from those who worship the beast and his image by keeping the first day of the week. The observance of this day is the mark of the beast. Bible Commentary 7. The attempting change of the Sabbath to Sunday is the mark. As the sign of the authority of the Catholic Church, Papist writers cite this very act of changing the Sabbath unto Sunday. Signs. The enactment of the National Sunday Law will perfect this device of Satan. When the legislature frames laws which exalt the first day of the week and put it in the place of the seventh day, the device of Satan will be perfected. Bible Commentary 7. Knowing acceptance of enforced Sunday keeping is the worship of the beast. The enforcement of Sunday keeping on the part of the Protestant churches is an enforcement of the worship of the papacy, of the beast. Those who, understanding the claims of the fourth commandment, choose to observe the false instead of the true Sabbath are thereby paying homage to that power by which alone it is commanded. Great controversy. The papal Sabbath is the mark of the beast. It is his identifying signet. The change of the Sabbath is the sign or mark of the authority of the Romish Church. The mark of the beast is the papal Sabbath. Evangelism. The false Sabbath is the basis of Rome's authority over the people. Roman Catholics acknowledge that the change in the Sabbath was made by their church, And they cite this very change as evidence of the supreme authority of the church. Signs. It was only by changing God's law that the papacy could appear to exalt itself above God. Only by changing God's law could the papacy exalt itself above God. Whoever should understandingly keep the law as thus changed would be giving supreme honor to that power by which the change was made. Such an act of obedience to papal laws would be a mark of allegiance to the Pope in the place of God. Great controversy. Note, the basis of Roman Catholic authority as supreme over Scripture is the change of the Sabbath. This extremely important decision was made on January the 18th, 1562, at the Council of Trent. The sign of Satan's authority is in direct contrast to the seal of God's authority. The spurious Sabbath Satan has exalted as the sign of his authority, but God has set his seal upon his royal requirement. Each Sabbath institution bears the name of his author, an ineffaceable mark that shows the authority of each. It is our work to lead the people to understand this. We are to show that it is of vital consequence whether they bear the mark of God's kingdom or the mark of rebellion, for they acknowledge themselves subjects of the kingdom whose mark they bear. Testimony 6. The beast's mark is found in the spurious Sabbath. What then is the mark of the beast if it is not the spurious Sabbath which the world has accepted in place of the truth? Signs. God has given men a Sabbath, but they have changed the rest day which God sanctified in Eden, placing in its stead a spurious Sabbath, which bears the mark of the man of sin. Manuscript 15. Manuscript releases 15. And there's a note. The very word contains its meaning. It is the sun day, the day of the sun god, which throughout history has been a primary pagan deity by which men have worshipped Satan. The Sabbath comes from the Hebrew word for rest and is the rest day given to mankind by the Creator, as in Genesis 2, 1-3. The one day of worship is the sign of God's creatorship, while the other day of counterfeit worship is the sign of papal control. The sign or seal of God is revealed in the observance of the seventh-day Sabbath, the Lord's memorial of creation. The mark of the beast is the opposite of this, the observation of the first day of the week. This mark distinguishes those who acknowledge the supremacy of the papal authority from those who acknowledge the authority of God. Testimonies 8. While the true worshippers of God exalt his creatorship, the other worshippers will attempt to eradicate the true Sabbath. The worshippers of God will be especially distinguished by their regard for the fourth commandment, since this is the sign of his creative power and the witness of his claim upon man's reverence and homage. The wicked will be distinguished by their efforts to tear down the Creator's memorial to exalt the institution of Rome. In the issue of the contest, all Christendom will be divided into two classes: those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus, and those who worship the beast and his image and receive his mark. Although the church and state will unite their power to compel all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, Revelation 13, to receive the mark of the beast, yet the people of God will not receive it. Selected Messages 2. God's people will willingly, gladly bear his signature. The Israelites placed over their doors a signature of blood to show that they were God's property. So the children of God in this age will bear the signature God has appointed. They will place themselves in harmony with God's holy law. A mark is placed upon every one of God's people, just as verily as a mark was placed over the doors of the Hebrew dwellings, to preserve the people from the general ruin. God declares, I gave them my Sabbath to be a sign between me and them, and that they might know that I am the Lord that sanctify them. Bible Commentary 7. Mark and seal placed at same time. The Sabbath Sunday test is such a simple one. All will be required by human law to keep the Sunday. Yet God requires that we observe the seventh-day Sabbath and work on the other 6 days. We must rest and worship on the Bible Sabbath, and we can do missionary work on Sunday, but we are not to assemble in weekly worship gatherings on that day. The day we hallow will determine what we will receive, the seal or the mark. When the National Sunday Law is enacted, to knowingly, sacredly observe one day is to reject the other. In that crisis, we'll individually receive either the seal of God or the mark. Each person will receive either the mark or the seal. If we receive this mark in our foreheads or in our hands, the judgments pronounced against the disobedient must fall upon us. But the seal of the living God is placed upon those who conscientiously keep the Sabbath of the Lord. Bible Commentary 7. Each will receive the mark of deliverance or the mark of the beast. The Lord is doing his work. All heaven is astir. The judge of all the earth is soon to arise and vindicate his insulted authority. The mark of deliverance will be set upon the men who keep God's commandments, who revere his law, and who refuse the mark of the beast or his image. Testimonies 5. One class will receive the mark, the other will receive the seal. The Sabbath will be the great test of loyalty, for it is the point of truth, especially controverted. When the final test shall be brought to bear upon men, then the line of distinction will be drawn between those who serve God and those who serve him not. While the observance of the full Sabbath is compliance with the law of the state, contrary to the fourth commandment, will be an avowal of allegiance to a power that is in opposition to God. The keeping of the true Sabbath in obedience to God's law is an evidence of loyalty to the Creator. While one class, by accepting the sign of submission to earthly powers, receives the mark of the beast, the other, choosing the token of allegiance to divine authority, received the seal of God. Great controversy. They're totally different identifying labels. They are two separate marks of opposing authority. The sign or seal of God is revealed in the observance of the seventh-day Sabbath, the Lord's memorial of creation. The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you. And that's Exodus 31. Here the Sabbath is clearly designated as a sign between God and his people. The mark of the beast is the opposite of this, the observance of the first day of the week. This mark distinguishes those who acknowledge the supremacy of the papal authority from those who acknowledge the authority of God. Testimonies 8. Everyone will place himself under one authority or the other. In every case, the great decision is to be made whether we will receive the mark of the beast or his image, or the seal of the living God. Testimony 6. The line will be clearly drawn between the false and the true. No one has yet received the mark of the beast, but when a decree shall go forth enforcing the counterfeit Sabbath, the line will be clearly drawn between the false and the true. Evangelism. It will be a time when each will decide whether he will think Satan's thoughts after him or instead stand obedient to God. To receive this mark means to come to the same decision as the beast has done, and to advocate the same ideas in direct opposition to the Word of God. Bible Commentary 7. Both classes are now preparing. Each of us is either uniting with the world or drawing closer to God and becoming more like Him. Those who are uniting with the world are receiving the worldly mold and preparing for the mark of the beast. Those who are distrustful of self, who are humbling themselves before God and purifying their souls by obeying the truth, these are receiving the heavenly mold and preparing for the seal of God. Testimonies 5. Your decision regarding the one you will obey will determine which mark you will receive. And the test will be a simple one, the day on which you worship. When you obey the decree that commands you to cease from labor on Sunday and worship God, while you know that there is not a word in the Bible showing Sunday to be other than a common working day, you consent to receive the mark of the beast and refuse the seal of God. Bible Commentary 7. Some will disobey the beast and obey God. By doing so, they declare themselves to be His followers. All who prove their loyalty to God by observing His law and refusing to accept a spurious Sabbath will rank under the banner of the Lord God Jehovah and will receive the seal of the living God. Manuscript Releases 15. Some will, by obeying the beast and keeping his pagan worship day, acknowledge his authority. The mark of the beast distinguishes those who acknowledge the supremacy of the papal authority from those who acknowledge the authority of God. Testimonies 8. Ultimately, everyone will decide to be on one side or the other. In the issue of the great contest, two parties are developed, those who worship the beast and his image and receive the mark, and those who receive the seal of the living God, who have the Father's name written in their foreheads. This is not a visible mark. Bible Commentary 7. A genuine experience with Christ will make all the difference in regard to which decision will be made. The sanctification of the Spirit signalizes the difference between those who have the seal of God and those who keep a spurious rest day. When the test comes, it will be clearly shown what the mark of the beast is. It is the keeping of Sunday. Those who, after hearing the truth, continue to regard this day as holy, bear the signature of the man of sin who thought to change times and laws. Bible Commentary 7. Rejecting the Sabbath truth, a truth of heavenly origin, brings one the mark. Those who yield the truth of heavenly origin and accept the Sunday Sabbath will receive the mark of the beast. Bible Commentary 7. And I think we'll stop there. there's a clear indication of what is the true Sabbath and what is not the Sabbath, but a common day that Satan, the devil, the enemy, has tried to put in place to fool God's children. But as is said here, only by diligent Bible study and knowing the truth can you even start to keep his laws, keep his commandments, to keep the Sabbath, as well as love each other, love God first. So we will continue. The next part we'll read will be starting with which decree begins the marking and sealing. So you can look forward to part 2, where we will talk about which decree begins the marking and the sealing. So this is part 1. The mark of the beast and the seal of God. Part 2 will be coming soon. Watch this space. And please like, comment, subscribe, and tick the bell for everything else that I do. May God bless you and keep you, protect you with his whole armor, and have his face shine upon you as you go forward. And when the Sabbath comes, please rest, enjoy, and be blessed. May God bless you and protect you.